Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Andre.
And this is the Love is Blind podcast. Woohoo! Oh, we woohooed. Okay. I guess we hang out together a lot. We're doing all the same. I noticed the other day that I was saying sure.
Sure.
Like Andre says a lot.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I talk like you. I think that's a relatable couple thing.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the Love is Blind podcast, we are here to talk about episodes 1 through 6.
Yeah, they released a bunch.
Season 7 of the US version. Because they released so many, this episode, we're doing them all together for the first batch. And then we'll watch the second batch and release together.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge that we have been saying we would do some seasons and then haven't gotten around to it yet. And the truth is we have a lot going on in our lives right now.
Yeah. Very, very busy time of life.
Yeah.
As it so happens.
We love doing this podcast, so we are making it work, but apologies. And we preach compassion all the time, and I want to give us some compassion too, that we're doing our best with juggling a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We've certainly got a lot going on in our lives. And this is
including moving.
Yeah, moving is one of them.
Yeah.
And that's a thing, right? And work and other parts of life. But yeah, anyway, we're really happy to be back here. Recognize that we had said that we're going to do one episode at a time for the U.S., but look, again, it's better to have
6.
something than nothing.
Be grateful.
And still don't have a sponsorship, so
yeah, I know. Once that sponsorship comes in, we'll be able to do this.
We'll be real motivated.
Yeah, so really it's on you guys, right?
Assuming that a sponsor listens.
Assuming that this is a sponsor. We've been telling you to talk to everybody. Have you been? When you point a finger, 3 point back at you.
Is that how that works?
Yes.
So we're saying that it's our fault because we're
pointing fingers at them. Yeah, I think we're also.
I think
in that context, I was assuming that they were pointing fingers, but I'm completely projecting, and in fact, I'm the only one finger pointing. Oh no!
This is how the tables have turned.
But yeah, speaking of, if you like this podcast, please do give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, like and subscribe to our Instagram page and YouTube podcasts, and Apple Podcast reviews are lovely. I believe finally Spotify technically has some version of reviews. So you can, I think on an episode basis at least, you can leave some reviews. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But do all the things. Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, and we do love the interaction that we get from folks, even when they disagree with us, and that is nice to hear, honestly, because it means you're engaging with us. Mm-hmm. Actually, there was a question that somebody had asked in one of our in one of the comments. I believe it was on Spotify, and it was regarding the last season of the U.S. And they had asked if you or I are friends with our exes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. And we're saying to have some, a different perspective on Chelsea, I believe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Both Andre and I are good friends with several of our exes.
Yeah. We hang out with them jointly and separately. They're nice people.
And in fact, I think, potentially controversial opinion, but if you are not friends with any of your exes, it does raise a question mark for me of, well, how are you to date that none of your exes want to be friends with you?
Yeah. I would aspire to be friends with all of my exes.
Yeah, me too. It's not always possible.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
But the two of my closest friends are exes.
Yeah.
And those people, I think I'm really incredibly grateful for those relationships, and I'm on at least on friendly terms with another ex.
Yeah, and I like them too. So, but yes, again, that's not to say that that's everybody's life experience. That's our life experience, right? So, but to the question that the person was asking, it is true that we are, and that probably affects the way we see certain relationships in the show.
Mm-hmm. All of our life experience affects how we see relationships on this show,
Definitely, yeah.
And I think it's different. In the Jimmy and Chelsea dynamic, I didn't get the sense that there was still romance between him and her.
Yeah, but I think the idea was there that there's a threat in some way, right? That it feels threatening. And by the way, apologies for the dog.
We don't have a dog
somewhere outside. We don't have a dog.
That dog is disagreeing. That dog is like, don't be friends with an ex.
That's what that dog is saying. So, anyway.
Shall we turn to the couples?
Let's turn to the couples. And really, we probably, as you were suggesting, we should maybe start with the couple that doesn't make it.
Yeah, Leo and Brittany.
Yeah.
And Hannah.
Yes, yeah. I mean...
I'm going to give you the floor.
Start off... me with the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, let's... I guess, starting with Leo. Okay. Have you all ever met that person who seems to not be able to get through any conversation without pointing out to you in some way or fashion that they make more money than you? Because here's Leo. Obviously, he has gone through incredible trauma in his childhood because he lost his grandparents, his parents, all of them to cancer, and then inherited this business empire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how big it is, but what he's left with is this sort of feeling that I think that in some ways there's a deep pain there that he's dealing with, but he's making up for it a lot by really holding out in front of people the fact that he's wealthy, while at the same time trying to kind of say, I'm here because I don't want people to know I'm wealthy, which there was a part of me that was genuinely hoping that, not hoping, but would think that if that was the case, that you would go through the entire, like the pods process, all the way maybe to, coming out of the honeymoon before you drop the bomb of like, also I am wealthy.
You would think.
But the amount of times he brings it up, and again, we're talking editing here. This was done over days. It's very possible that this was a thing that
right.
generally
These
didn't
were
come
all
out
the
very,
times he said it and compiled for us. Yeah.
But what I get the vibe from him and the way people reacted to him around him, was particularly in the men's quarters, was that this was a thing that he brought up fairly often. It wasn't lost on anybody. He's wearing a Rolex and and he clearly, it's something that makes him feel good to be able to tell people, hey, I have a lot of money. And that really played out in the way he was seeking a partner because he says he was seeking a partner for somebody who doesn't care for him for just his money. But at the same time, it seemed to me that he was kind of seeking, somebody who kind of appreciated his money at the same time, Like
he both didn't want to be someone to be interested because of his money, but he also did. Yeah,
like he wanted people who wouldn't be just interested in him because of the money, but he wanted them to find the fact that he had money attractive in some way. At least that's a vibe that I got, and I don't know whether that's an accurate thing, but there's a part of me also that's maybe conflating a little bit the fact that ultimately the person that he chose was somebody who had pretty explicitly stated, I want to be a trophy wife.
Yeah, had explicitly said those words. Yeah, I am a trophy wife. Yeah.
Yeah. But we do go through the Brittany and Hannah sort of mix where he's trying to decide which one of them he would like to date longer. And you can tell that Hannah is feeling a certain way about it because she doesn't want to be caught in this love triangle. And well, actually, before we even move on to the love triangle, I guess I want to hear your take on Leo. Just Leo.
Yeah, just Leo. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like him. I think a thing that speaks volumes is how the other people on the show appear to relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
And both Hannah and Brittany, the other women seem to like. The other men did not seem to like Leo that much. He wasn't as loathed as like Sam from the UK, right? But like just not a liked person. And I think that to me is always like, okay, like, because, you know, we talk a lot about the editing being really a heavy hand in the show. I think it gives you a little bit more insight as to how they might actually be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have known several. I have dated, I wouldn't say seriously, but gone on dates with, I'm thinking of 2 people that had a good amount of money, and both of them just couldn't stop talking about it. I found it off-putting in both cases. It's almost like it's just part of that world.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is that. I mean, I don't have as money like apparently Leo has, so I don't know. But I could see in that world there just being this like acknowledgement of we all have a lot of money, and maybe that's how you're used to relating to people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in not that world, it's, I think, off-putting. And yeah, like you're going to her credit, I don't think Hannah was that swayed by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, lots of masking going on. That's just what comes across to me, like just lots of trying to present himself in a very specific certain way. And maybe what you were saying about he's gone through a lot of loss has got to be part of it. I wonder if the family dynamic, there was also that they also were all rich like that. And so that might have been how they all were. All facade and masking. I don't know. But me personally, if I were dating him, having dated people like him, would be 100% not into it.
Yeah.
And I kind of, to be honest, don't really know much about him besides that he's rich. And he grew up with that Italian, these art terms, and like he's kind of boring. If you're not into art, which I'm not particularly into art, if you're into art, great. You guys could probably talk all the time, but neither Hannah nor Brittany seem particularly into art. And I was like, what are you guys going to talk about all day? That could just be my dislike speaking. But yeah, Brittany, that's my thoughts on Leo. Should we go into Brittany?
Yeah, we can certainly move on to Brittany. And honestly, it kind of ties into something that we were talking about just a moment ago, which is he asks at one point whether she would stay with him if he didn't have any money.
Yes.
And she, with what seemed to me at the time great difficulty, says, of course. And immediately my mind is said, of course she's not. I think that she's very much into the idea of him having money, especially when she then highlights a little bit later that she's accustomed to people covering her 100%. It does go into the whole, like, I want to be a trophy wife. I want to be, to be taken care of. And look, power to you. There's nothing wrong with that if you find somebody who wants to provide that for you.
Wolfen Dom.
Yeah. That is a dynamic that exists out there, and I'm not going to shame anybody for that, especially if both parties are kind of into it, but it does, lay the groundwork for, I was like, I don't know if this relationship from the very beginning has any foundation, given that they are kind of explicitly basing it on, I mean, we're not talking about, their looks, but we're certainly talking about other things that they have, as opposed to their inner world,
To be fair, I believe when he talks about, would you be into me if I didn't have money, her response is not, I might be wrong, listeners can correct me if I am, but she doesn't say, of course. I think she says, I've dated men before who had a lot of money, and if all I wanted was money, I would have ended up with them.
Right.
And that,
you're right.
Yeah, I think that's different. And I think that is actually true. It's not that like it's a prerequisite, but it's not going to take you over the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes,
and I think that is true for her.
Yeah, and that is an important distinction.
Yeah. I actually quite liked Brittany. I called her Brittany Horowitz because she reminds me of Cher Horowitz. And I think when we're first meeting her, she's talking about doing some beach relief disaster relief. And I was like, oh, it's like the Pismo Beach disaster relief. I'm trusting that a lot of people here are Clueless fans. And if not, you should be.
This is a Clueless reference.
It's a Clueless, yeah.
I see.
Andre's giving me this look like, what are you talking about? I've been calling her Brittany Horowitz the whole time, and he's just been like, okay, whatever you want, totally. Babe. Yeah, I think she seems really lovely. I mean, all of the girls seem to like her. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, there's a lot that on the surface you could not like about her, right? Like, there's something about like someone being like, I just want to be a trophy wife in this group that could incur a lot of judgment. And I think it is a real testament to, she seems like a genuinely nice and like authentic person. And she's like, yeah, this is who I am. That everybody seemed to like her.
Yeah.
And I liked her too. What did you think of her alone? And then let's talk about their dynamic.
Her by herself?
Yes.
I thought she was fine. I was honestly surprised that she didn't form any kind of connection with Nick D. I was kind of expecting her to, for some reason, but that seems to have never happened. And she also seems to have, she describes towards the end that she wanted to narrow things down very quickly because she wasn't really comfortable with kind of having a lot of connections kind of carry on. So it looks like she kind of narrowed it down to Leo fairly early on. And yeah, she seemed, to your point, nice. Again, we don't have that much to necessarily go on other than the things that I think were kind of cut in a way to present her personality, which seemed fine. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, I think this is going to be difficult for you to find exactly what you're looking for. Although not impossible, because, it's very easy. She very easily could have ended up with somebody who said, no, yeah, I'll take care of you 100%. And that's what I'm looking for too.
Love is not broke.
Yes. With respect to the Hannah-Leo dynamic, I will say, I mean, what stands out to me and the thing that I probably want to talk about the most is the moment in which Hannah tells Leo that, well, because she initially breaks it off with Nick D, and then she feels kind of bad about it, specifically because she feels that, well, she's in a love triangle where the outcome is uncertain, and Nick D was showing her a lot of care, which Leo was kind of unable to at that time. And so she asks for him back, and they make a fairly strong connection, as pods go. They seem to connect, and they had been connecting before that too. But the way Leo responds to her telling him that, well, yeah, we care for each other and we think we're going to move forward, he throws, I felt like a tantrum where he's like,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, how dare you take away what I thought was completely my choice. I thought it was just you and, like, between you and Brittany, and I got to choose, and that you would get no choice. And he hated the fact that she had
some
a choice.
man baby stuff.
Yeah. He responded so, I thought it was aggressive the way he was doing. He was doing it in a pleading way, as though he was kind of like, you know, I can't believe you're doing this to me. But he was doing this really terrible thing, in my opinion, which was that he was dragging her close by saying, you don't understand how much I care for you. What if I asked you to marry me right now? But he had zero intention of doing that. If she had said to him when he was like, if I asked you to marry me right now, would you say yes? Right? He had no intention of doing that in the moment, right? He was just trying to, like, emotionally manipulate her to feel back invested in him so that he would get another night to make his choice on his own without having to, you know, have Hannah have much of a say in it. He wanted to be able to walk out and just say, I chose, and this is my choice. But all of the things she was saying to her were just emotional manipulation of, like, I can't believe you're doing this, and, like, professing love that he had not professed up until that point to her at all. And that I don't think he had any intention of following through, because he still wanted more time to think about it, you know? Yeah, that was really not pretty to look at.
No, I agree. I don't know that I have much more to add there, actually. Yeah, he just is very immature, right? And
yeah,
entitled, you know, that it's my choice. And yeah, to the Brittany him dynamic, Brittany and he didn't end up working out.
Which is also a new thing that we haven't necessarily seen in this way on Love is Blind.
Yeah, really, Andre and I were really surprised by this choice to feature them so heavily and then to have them not come to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Was just interesting. And I was like, I wonder why they did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was really shut down that he wouldn't tell her she was it. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how much of her disliking him was, or ultimately not ending up with him, was because of genuine incompatibility, and how much of it was she was just shut down for a long time and just couldn't come back.
Yeah, those last couple of dates that they had were really hard on her.
Well, speaking of him being, you know, all about him and what he wants, she had specifically said, I want our evening date to be fun and not talk about this. And then they go, and then he's bringing it up.
Yeah, and then they talk about it extensively.
Yes. And it's not for them.
It's for him.
It's for him to eternally process this. And I think that's why the guys didn't like him either, because, you know, have you ever had that feeling where someone's just kind of using you as someone there while they talk through their stuff?
Yeah, just like a sounding board, but they need you to be present in order for them to feel like their decision is the right one, or
Yeah, but you could be replaced by, you know, a cardboard cutout, and it would be just, there's like it speaks, I'm not diagnosing him, but as I'm talking through that's a narcissistic tendency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that specific thing. I want to be very clear what I'm saying, but that I'm using you just to get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And you are not really an other that I believe has their own thoughts or feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a really hard dynamic. And also seeing Leo and Brittany meet for the first time, and the way he was kind of clinging to her and kind of like towering over her. You could very much tell from her body language that she was feeling really uncomfortable in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
They end up, I mean, first of all, they end up in her, like, every other couple, when they meet, they kind of hang out in the center. They walk over to her end, to like her dressing room, where they're sitting on the couch.
I didn't think I'd seen that either.
Yeah. And he just seems to be kind of, the way his hand was kind of like gripping the back of her neck / head, it just seemed a very sort of like, I got the thing. And she was just leaning back away from him. And it's not even just body language, because the moment, we get a talking head of her, she's talking about how she, like, that's the most awkward thing she's ever experienced in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And, they talk about, if we don't go to Mexico, which again is another wild thing. I'd never heard couples kind of say, we're not sure whether like the producers are taking us to the next step. And, they were like, if we don't go to Mexico, can we go to Miami? And they do. We get that in a little text just saying, after a few weeks, they ended things, which maybe means that I actually dated for a while after Miami, given that it took several weeks.
Yes. But, so I could see it dragging, and maybe he was pulling the same stuff he did with Hannah.
Yeah, it might have just been that they went to Miami and then they didn't speak for several weeks, and then they got a divorce.
And he was like, why are you breaking, I don't know. For the sake of time, should we move to a different couple?
Yeah, should we kind of daisy chain off of Hannah? Or do you have a different idea?
Yeah, well...
Sure,
real
there's
quick,
the Andre Shore.
No, I said. One quick thought.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he would have been compatible with Hannah?
Ooh, no.
Yeah, to me that's a hell no.
No, but I don't necessarily have a clear idea why. Hannah seems nice. She seems like for the most part, a nice person. Although, in her dynamic with Nick.
Yeah, should we just go to Hannah and Nick?
Sure, let's go to Hannah and Nick. Well,
first,
sure. Aha, there it is.
I know. It's where it comes from.
It is. It comes from me. So, Nick
Dorca. Hannah just seems like she's 26,
Yeah.
She is, I think, probably mature for her age, but still 26, right? So it's like she's still working through a lot of insecurities, and those come up a lot. It came up with her and Leo, for sure.
Yeah.
They do come up with her and Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a nice person. Yeah, I just, she's from like West Virginia, so I'm guessing that like she kind of represents something big, that she's like living in the city and moved away from home. That's probably a big part of her story.
Yeah.
I just think she's like not that into him.
No. Whereas, I mean, I don't think she's that into him. I think that the
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder how much of her, I think she might just not be that into him, but also being with him makes her self-conscious about herself. And I wonder how much of it is like she can't get over that too. Anyway.
Yes. Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think that she probably did have a sort of image of the two of them, him, a former football player, and her, a former cheerleader, as, kind of creating this dynamic of this power couple that maybe she was dreaming about. But to be fair, he is an ex-football player, and as she points out, the mental image she had of him based on that knowledge was very different than what turns out, because, well, I think he's a kicker and a punter, which I don't know football sports that much, but I do know that doesn't really typically call for a very large build person. So just from the knowledge of like I wouldn't have expected him to be a particularly big, imposing guy, but I think she did. she was hoping for somebody who was like big and buff, and he is, to be fair,
He's not.
He's a littler man. No judgment there, but he is just a little bit smaller and slight. And one thing I will say is he's very confident. He's incredibly confident. Easy to, like, he seems to have an easy
think
time
that's real?
talking. Real in what sense?
Do you think he's really confident, or do you think it's facade?
There might be a facade there, but it does take some confidence to be able to, like, the way he spoke to when they end up on the honeymoon, and he's runs off and sits on a duck.
Oh yeah, the
and
duck.
rides the duck.
Duck gate.
The way he speaks to that stranger is as somebody who is confident and able to, like, and
he's a realtor, so he's gregarious.
Exactly. I think that's a big thing, right? He is a salesperson. Again, no judgment. I know lots of people who are in sales, but that is a personality type, right? People who are in sales are very good at talking and very good at connecting, and power to them. But also, it meant that I think maybe with Hannah, she had a different view of who he was going to be. A lot of the other women were calling him like Rico Suave because he was so like smooth and like able to like talk everybody and like talk with anybody. And I think when they finally meet, I don't think Hannah got that from him anymore. And in fact, she started, I think, seeing his suaveness as being something that she started to I wouldn't say fear, but get more like annoyed by, and more seeing it as a threat to their relationship than an asset. That here's a guy who just smooth talks everybody and isn't taking things seriously, and yeah.
I just feel like it's a little Katya and Christopher, where it's like, you really want to like him. There's things that you do like about him. Boy, it would sure work out for the show if you liked him, but you just don't.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's like with Duckgate, like, yeah, he was being, silly and goofy and
a little
not
immature.
What she wanted, but I also could have been playful. And like if they had been into each other to start, and we're just like in that new relationship energy zone of, I think she would have joined along and they would have been ducking together,
Yeah. Although,
which is, I think, the one time that ducking is not a typo.
Yeah.
And an autocorrect.
I will say, though, this is that scene in particular, and I think there's another scene that comes up. That's the first time I've specifically seen the concept of the ick come up on this show.
And it came up a lot, yeah.
It came up twice, because it came up with Hannah and him, and then it came up with one other person, didn't it? It was a different couple.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah.
But yeah, she got the ick.
She got the ick.
What do you think of his, I have not an image, but a brand? So we can't talk about sex?
Oh my God. Yeah, when he's like, I know people are going to be talking about things, but I have, it's not an image, but more like a brand. And I was like, what brand do you have? And my immediate thought was that he was still like hanging on to some football thing. And then later,
well, I was thinking realtor.
Realist, exactly. That took me a while for me to piece that together. But of course,
like, you're on Love Is Blind, dude.
I know,
your
but then
brand is done.
Exactly.
Your brand is now this. Yeah.
But it's also true that the moment he found out that everybody else was talking about sex and how they had sex, he was like, "Oh yeah, definitely. You should totally talk.
Right.
Like, feel free to talk about that," because he didn't want to be left out, and then because that would spoil his brand too.
What a shady producer move. Remember when like Hannah was talking? I don't remember who she was talking to, but she was like, "I can't say it, but we're having sex," and then I think the lip read, because we have the subtitles on and it said like lip read, we're having sex. Just like, you producers are shifty, man. Like, you're catching all of this on video of them saying they don't want it to be on video.
The producers are like, "Hey, we said you're gonna be mic'd, and if you try to like, hide that from us, we're gonna make it up by reading your lips." Well, not make it up, but make up for it, I guess. But yeah, so I don't think they are gonna do well.
I don't. Yeah, no, these two are breaking up pretty soon. I don't even know if they'll make it to the altar.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see. I see a continued world of annoyance between the two of them, and I think it's just going to get worse as they live together. But I guess I don't necessarily know that, and we'll find out in upcoming episodes.
Mm-hmm. Should we talk about Stephen and Monica?
Stephen and Monica.
Stephen, was a Trump voter, then changed his mind, voted for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Monica, I forget what she does, but she has some corporate-ish job or political job. And he's more blue collar, I believe.
Yeah, they seemed...
And he found out through genetic testing that he is mostly black.
Yes.
Right?
But has been white passing and thought he was Italian, right?
Thought he was
initially?
Italian, yep. And then
Yeah.
decided to learn all about his heritage, and that really impressed Monica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got the red beard like me, which I was happy. I love to see somebody with a little red beard.
Yeah.
I got some red in my beard for absolutely no reason. But yeah, they seem like a cute couple. I thought when they were in the pods, I thought they were really adorable. I thought he was constantly kind of like swooning on his own. Like he gets this look in his eyes from time to time when he's just really, really happy. And Monica, to your point, was just really impressed with him and his words and his interest in his heritage and the kind of person that he is.
I did like him. I liked him a lot, actually. He seems genuine, very into her when they were doing that group dinner, and the ladies were interrogating the dudes.
Mm-hmm.
He passed with flying colors.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna say no, though.
Yeah, there was a little bit of tension that was already starting to build around them
Right.
in the last episode.
And I don't know how much is that, again, editing one fight and they, again, both drunk. But it seems like she often thinks he's taking up too much space. I don't know. In that dynamic, it was like she was asking him a question and he was answering it. And maybe it could have been, he could have stopped a little bit sooner, but I didn't think it was egregious. But she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it happens a lot. He is chatty.
Yeah,
he is chatty.
She did say, essentially kind of put it as we've talked about this before.
Yes.
So this is clearly a point of contention between the two of them. It also is like one of those things where I think he was trying to, I'm not making an excuse for his behavior, but I'm saying he was trying to recap the night with the two of them together. And I think that even in the moment where she was like, can you give me space? And then he kind of stopped. And then the conversation kind of just ended. So I think she just wanted some quiet, which is totally fine, or just a little bit of space. But the way it kind of turned to be well, you're just talking too much, or you won't give me a chance to speak, was maybe maybe there would have been a different way of saying that. But again, if this is something that's come up before and that they were already kind of struggling with, I can understand how it can get frustrating for her that she keeps having to come back to the same thing,
And I think it is because his response was am I doing it again?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's, again, I don't know, they're ambiguous to me. This could just be edited. This is one moment in time. Because the rest of the time they seem to be getting along great, but he's different than the type she would usually go for, and I think that is ultimately going to bother her.
Yeah.
I think they're different levels of profession and education and different backgrounds there are going to bother her.
Yeah. What was it that he does again?
I don't remember, but I want to say he's like an electrician. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
that's right. He went to school to be an electrician. You're right.
Yeah.
Which honestly, that's great job.
That's a great, yeah, but it's like, I don't think it's not the job that she saw herself with, right? And
Sure,
I think
yeah.
for her, she's very polished, she's very together. And this is both why you go on the show, so that you date somebody who wouldn't be someone that you would like necessarily meet in real life. And also I think it matters. Yeah. So I'm going to say no for them, but a lot could happen in the next few eps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very possible that we're going to get a swell of change.
Yeah, she might have the ick, though.
She might have the ick. He has pretty blue eyes, though, so.
Should we talk about Alexandra and Tim?
Oof.
Oof. Oof.
Oh, this was man. From the moment they actually meet in person, things start going downhill with them. They seem real cute in the pods. I can't recall any specific drama with the two of them.
I don't remember them much from the pods.
Yeah. I guess this is the downside of watching 6 episodes and then recording
I don't think they were as highlighted in the pods.
They weren't, but what we did get out of them, and I'd recall this, is that they got along.
Yeah, they were cute. Yeah, exactly. Very, like, we're chummy. Yeah.
There was vulnerability there, and the only thing that I can kind of... I'm not sure if this was them, but I feel like at some point that she was put off by the fact that he was getting more vulnerable. Or am I thinking of the wrong couple?
I don't know.
But in either case, the moment they meet up and they get into this, like, I don't even want to necessarily call it a joke, but this thing about him being a dog and he won't stop, and they've literally just met, and she keeps being like, stop, and he's like, woof, woof, and she just it won't end. I was like, ooh, this is a bad dynamic you're establishing, and it is a dynamic that seems to continue to play out.
Yeah.
Where they seem to just be kind of getting on each other's nerves and not fully listening to each other.
Yeah, when they're in Mexico together, she keeps making pretty mean comments in the spirit of fun and laughter. It reminds me of Stephen and I can't remember her name, the Irish one from the UK.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, but
that we commented that, like, you know, it's not hey, PSA, if you're making fun of your partner, it doesn't feel good. Even if it's in the guise of I'm just a jokester or whatever. I don't mean it. I'm being playful. It doesn't feel playful. Sabrina was her name.
Yeah, Sabrina. That's right.
It doesn't feel playful. And if that's really the dynamic, I mean, that's never going to feel as good as if you're just genuinely loving on the person. So I saw Alex doing a lot of that. But Tim seemed still pretty into her.
Yeah, it was pretty wild how even into the honeymoon, I think at one point they're, you know, when they're first meeting the other couples, and he's like, we've never argued, we've never had a disagreement. And in my mind, I was like, they show you having a disagreement the moment you see each other.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, they are these sort of, to your point, these mean ways of poking fun. And yeah, I too have never necessarily encountered a couple where that is a successful way in which the marriage continues forever. Like there has to be more than that. And if the only way you kind of get along with your partner or have fun with your partner is by mocking each other, I think that there's
not into it.
There's some problems there of just not being able to really ever let your guard down, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're just gonna get mocked for it. And it keeps things superficial, and it keeps things in a place that I think a relationship will struggle to thrive. And look, if there's people among you out there who are in couples where this is your dynamic and it works, great.
Write us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and I'm happy that it
or,
works.
You know what?
but
I encourage you to actually try for a week. Instead, just being really nice and loving, and see if it feels better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Andre and I both like joking a lot. We do comedy. But I would not like that dynamic if it were me. It would make I would feel hurt. And I own that I'm sensitive, but I feel like a lot of people would feel that way.
Yeah.
We got to talk about their fight, baby doll.
Their fight, which we don't see.
We don't see.
We know that they were walking back from the party. Presumably, I mean, again, for everything that's happening in Love's Line, we can always add a soupçon, a little bit of just alcohol.
Oh, yes.
In the background. The golden goblets.
I would say it's more than a soupçon.
There's the golden gobs make a prominent presence for a reason. They are all constantly drinking. So walking away from a party and feeling a little bit quiet is one thing. It sounded as though they were continuing to do the thing that they had been doing, which is kind of like, I'm not necessarily making fun of each other, but just speaking in a way that was just not very compassionate. And acting in ways that aren't compassionate. That he says that she put her hand on his mouth to keep him from talking.
Yes, that'd be a lot.
Which again is just such a way of putting down your partner, and especially if you're not willing to give any sort of information about what's happening, even if the information is I can't talk right now. But the dynamic ended up being, just from their description, that he wanted to find out what's going on, and asking her to talk, she wanted quiet. She wanted him to shut up, but didn't want to talk. And they ended up sleeping separately and meeting back up the following morning in a moment where, honestly, I genuinely did think that things were going to end right there. And I was a little bit surprised that she kind of made a move to kind of get closer to him, because when she initially said, are you do you want to sleep apart again tonight? I really thought that was going to be that was going to be the end, So I was really surprised that she made a move to kind of get closer to him, and to. She didn't really apologize necessarily, but was kind of trying to show affection in that moment.
Yeah, I think to the best of what she could, while still she's very guarded, right? It was interesting to me that he had come in saying, I thought this was going to be the last conversation we ever had, and then I didn't think it was such a great reconciliation that if I was coming in with that mindset, that would have done it for me. Breaking up is really hard to do. So there's that. But yeah, it must have been a pretty intense fight. And I think, you're going to get married to this person. Even one major fight like that is probably okay, let's not get married,
I mean, look, I think it's not okay, but in the sense that it's not unusual for a couple to have a fight, especially when it comes to a disagreement over a style of communication that they're just learning about.
But that intense of a fight that early?
Yes, I see what you mean, but I think what we're missing is we don't have any context, right?
Yes.
We didn't get to see the fight. What we get to see is the aftermath, and the aftermath doesn't look great, but also they are a couple who have not really been exuberant in their emotional sort of expression up to that point regardless, So I imagined a much quieter, more maybe a lot less of an intense fight than maybe you're thinking about. I think that in some ways that their fight was very tense, right? It was just moments of tension, as opposed to like, I don't think they screamed at each other. You know, I think they were quietly fuming.
I think it was more than that.
Yeah.
If he ended up leaving
Hmm.
and then came back the next morning with the intention that he was going to leave, I think it had to get a little more explosive than that.
Hmm.
Quietly fuming, I don't think would lead to that the next morning. And especially if she did end up getting physically in his space with her hand on his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, it's also clear that, you know, she asks him if he would hug her or get close to her, and he says, no, I don't want to do that right now. And then she, despite the fact that that's not something he wants to do, makes a move forward.
Yeah.
And he doesn't fully engage in that hug. He's kind of spacing out. He's, well, not spacing out. He's
dissociated.
looking, he's looking off to the side, and he's probably, you could almost see in the way his eyes are moving that he's stuck on, like his thoughts are moving
frozen.
in a loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Difficult to watch, but yeah, they
from the preview it looks like it doesn't get better.
Yeah.
Oh, we have 3 more.
Oh gosh.
I know. So shall we go to Garrett and Taylor?
Garrett and Taylor. Yeah, sure.
So I just want to say, y'all know that I have the theory that the first couple that gets engaged is the chosen couple.
Mm-hmm.
And after we watched the first episode, I looked at Andre and I was like, no couple is engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, oh no. What do we have going on this season? So even though these two are the first couple that gets engaged, they get engaged in the second episode,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give them chosen couple status.
You don't think they're the chosen couple?
I don't think so. And in fact, I think they're medium compatible. Usually the chosen couple, you're like, okay, like I'm pretty into it, you know, excepting, you know, Nick and Danielle, we all try. They're like not, I don't know. She seems really guarded.
Yes.
He seems like fine, but really like not very self-aware, I would say. Like, I don't think he probably meant anything by his comment about like, I've usually only dated, I think, white women.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably was like thinking out loud or something, and like, oh, it was surprising, but not thinking about how that might feel to someone of color.
To say that he is shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so I just don't think he's very self-aware, and she seems to, which, yeah, if I were, you know, her, a woman of color, hearing that, already feeling kind of, you know, she already has a guard, then, and signaling that she feels sensitive to this conversation because she doesn't want to share her mother's name, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, do better, you know? They had cute stuff. They're both physicists or into physics, and
was she a physicist?
She was into physics, at least. They had that joke about entropy. Like, there was stuff you saw, but I am officially not giving them chosen couple status. I don't see it for them.
Okay.
In fact, I could see them saying no. I could see them saying yes, but I could also very well see them saying no.
Yeah, I agree with that. There has been some speculation online that they have in fact said yes, because I saw a photo of somebody of Garrett with like a very sort of very different look, a little bit of a glow up, and somebody suggested that might be because they got married. I think, first of all, I couldn't tell if it was him, because if it was, whoa, he can look very different. But 2, if it is him, that genuinely means nothing to me, that he like has had a makeover. It could be because he said yes or because he said no. So I don't know.
That's true.
So I have brought zero information.
But he did get glowed up.
He did get glowed up. I think that they, for the most part, seem to... Oh, for the most part, they get along. When they finally meet up, and actually spend some time together. I think he's certainly happy with who she is and what she looks like, and I don't know whether she's happy with what he looks like, but
she seems fine.
She seems fine. And they were the one couple who we know didn't have sex, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
At least not initially.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, at least not at the when they have the party at where all the couples meet. Which, absolutely no shame to that. No problem with that. But it may be, it might be because there's something, that there's not an attraction there. But it's also possible that they're just waiting, and that's totally fine too. I think it's maybe too early for them, from my perspective, to really know what's going to happen with them. It's wild to me that we watched 6 episodes, and in some ways I understand these couples a lot less than I do other couples in previous seasons.
Yeah, I think generally this season I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling the that's why I think there's no chosen couple. It's like no one's there. We ain't got no Lauren and Cameron this season, we're just sort of all bearing through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, DC is rough. DC is rough to date in, is my takeaway. Yeah.
My friend Tom just started watching Love is Blind. Hey, Tom, how's it going? If you listen to this. But he started with this season, and boy, buddy, I'm sorry. This isn't the greatest showing of what this show is.
Yeah. I don't know. So far, do you like it more or less than season 5?
Season 5?
Because that was also a low couple.
Yeah, I liked season 5 fine.
I think I like this more than season 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because of the Leo drama?
I think it's because it's not just everyone trauma dumping.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. And there's no USA socks.
USA socks.
Anyway.
That's right.
Ramses and Marissa?
Ramses and Marissa. Look, if there could be a chosen couple...
I think it's going to be the next couple.
Really?
Ashley and Tyler.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I will say, before we specifically look at Ramses and Marissa, I really like Bowden.
Me too. I do too. I also like Ramses.
I like both of them, and I like the fact that they were friends. I liked the way their dynamic, like Ramses and Bowden, kind of got along. I was like, I was rooting for them just as much as I was rooting for them to
let's
end up
take Marissa out of it.
Yeah, let's just have a show about their friendship, their budding friendship from Love is Blind. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Bowden was, he had really fascinating background, and also, look, both him and Ramses, very attractive guys from my perspective.
And Andre's also European, so I think you liked Bowden's European connection.
I was like, he's my Ukrainian neighbor, yay. But yeah, Bowden and Marissa got along well, and Ramses and Marissa got along well. They were real sweet. I think there's an aspect of Marissa that I think it keeps coming up, which is her military background and the fact that she was into like manlier men and like quote unquote like the sort of like stereotypical masculine mask man. And I do wonder whether that's going to be a thing that's going to be a problem for her in some ways, or whether that's just
of Ramses.
Yeah. Or whether that's just going to be something where she genuinely realizes, oh, actually, I am so much happier in this place. It's unclear at this point, but the reason I bring it up is because the editors, the producers, are showing us that cut, what I've perceived as often. as in it's come up a few times that this conversation is happening. And typically when they start to lay those kinds of crumbs, it's because they're trying to establish the early pattern of a story, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder whether that's going to be a thing, you know, when he meets her friends or he meets her family, that it's going to be an issue in some way.
What do you think of her saying, you know, I'm definitely working. I wouldn't mind if you stayed at home and took care of the kids. You remember this conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's
great.
Yeah. If it's a dynamic that works for them, great. If they're able to make enough money for kids, great. All of that, great if it works out.
Yeah, I want to rephrase that because I had nothing like to comment on about that general dynamic. I think I mean like his reaction to that was like, well, I'm kind of like my career too, but I guess
I
maybe.
See. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, does he feel strong-armed into this? How will that work out?
Yeah. It's unclear whether she was just mentioning that as a thing that is an option that he could consider, or whether she actually has an expectation of that.
Yeah, that seems like that needs to be ironed out.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will. They talked about having kids, but not at first. Was that right? Or am I?
They talked about it in the pods, so still fairly early on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they're one of my contenders for a yes. As the couples this season go, I think they're the closest. Well, them and our next couple, I think, are the closest to yeses that we have.
I agree with that. I think I could see them saying yes. They do seem compatible. It's like the thing is, I think she just was compatible with both. Both him and Bohdan. It's not like one. I could see it either way, to be honest. I think if she'd gone to, she's a little bit hard to, she's so like bubbly and whatever in both that it's like a little bit difficult. Even when she's like ending things with Bohdan, she's like, so I'm ending thing, you know?
That was the cheeriest breakup from both of their ends, right? Because Bohdan too was like, "Yep, totally get it. It was so fun to meet
guy.
you.
Yeah. Good job, good pick.
Ramses is awesome." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay."
Whoa. So I don't know if I can tell from her like what is. She would have to be someone that you'd have to know very closely and understand very closely to figure out what's actually going on with them.
Yeah.
You know, because she's got that like bubbliness. So. I don't know, but yeah, I could see a yes for them. Mm-hmm. And I'd be into that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can also see Bohdan showing up and her being like, oh.
Yeah. We'll see what happens in that reveal.
Because they do have the connection of the military background. Mm-hmm. So that is a thing that maybe could be intriguing to her, especially when paired with that face.
It's probably in the next batch of episodes, so.
Probably. It's probably the ones that are just... Yeah, they're already out. We just haven't seen them yet because we didn't want to release this episode having seen even more episodes.
Yes.
But yeah.
Final couple.
Ashley
and Tyler.
Ashley and Tyler.
It's a yes for them.
Yeah.
Unless they get in some huge fight. That, you know, remember Kenneth and Brittany, right?
Yes.
Like you can leave the honeymoon and it's all different.
The moment your phone comes out.
Yeah. But at least as of their honeymoon coupleness, into it.
They seem really into each other. Both, I mean, they seemed into each other when they were in the pods. They were into each other when they met, and they continue to be into each other throughout this entire like honeymoon process. Like I haven't really seen a whole lot of tension from them almost at all, which is surprising then that they aren't in some way the chosen couple, that they didn't get highlighted right away.
I know.
I do wonder whether the fact that we highlighted Leo and Brittany so much kind of ended up, just because it was the more dramatic thing happening, has meant that we just got a lot less information about some of our couples. And there are a lot of couples, right? There's a lot of couples, not all of them super strong, but we've had a lot of focuses right in those first 5 episodes.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track. Yeah, I thought maybe the producers were kind of phoning it in this season, but then, you know, as Andre and I commented that they got like a soundtrack from like actual artists that you recognize.
Yeah, they made
So,
more money.
Seems like their budget has gone up. Yeah.
They had Ain't No Mountain High Enough, right?
And they had
like
Coldplay.
Yeah, and Coldplay. Yeah, they had a Coldplay, like a hit, which is, I'm assuming, very expensive to land right now.
I also think Coldplay's wanting people to buy their album.
Sure.
But yeah, I was like, it can't just be that they're out of money and the producers are phoning it in. But this season is feeling off to me. Yeah. But Ashley and Tyler, I like them as a couple. She's apparently the first girl he's really been able to like trust.
Yeah.
And he really does trust her, and she seems equally into him, and yeah, good things, good vibes.
Yeah, and man, I'm always bracing myself to your point for the thing that shows up in week 2 or 3, you know, of their relationship, because seemingly very happy relationships can sometimes turn fairly quickly when a thing comes out.
Yeah, and it could, but I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that we have at least one couple get married this season.
I mean, I don't think there's never been a season of all no's.
Yeah.
That would be wild. Yeah. It's really weird, but again, whenever you have a couple where, for the most part, things are going well, there's not as much to say other than like, we're happy with them and we hope that everything keeps going well. We wish you and yours the best.
Keep working on it.
But yeah, they are hopefully doing well. As soon as we end this podcast and we see the next episodes, I'm sure we'll find out otherwise.
But that is it for our recap for 1 to 6.
Yeah.
And again, if you like this podcast, then please do give us a 5-star rating. Follow us on Instagram. Engage with us. Let us know your thoughts.
If you're in any sort of Facebook groups about Love is Blind, just post and just be like, Reddit. Hey, have you guys heard this podcast?
Post on Reddit for us.
It's pretty
or
good
TikTok.
podcast.
I'm not even on TikTok.
You're not on TikTok?
No.
I'm on TikTok.
Well, I'm not.
Oh.
So post for me.
Yeah. Post on Allie's behalf.
On my behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah. But spread the word. Spread the word so that we can make these episodes not late. What is it when Netflix sends you episodes before they're released?
Like previews?
There's some special word for it, but we want to be those people where they give you the episodes in advance.
So we can watch these
we can
like a screener
immediately. A screener, that's the word. Yeah. So we want to, so we can drop
Netflix screeners. I mean, if we become the official podcast of Love is Blind, whoo.
I think we have to be kinder to Nick and Vanessa if we're gonna get that title.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like doing that.
We have to do Nick and Vanessa outreach.
But that's it. And we will catch you soon.
All right. Bye, y'all.